Hi, my name is Dr. Elena Watson, and today I'm going to be presenting to you the 13 things you should be looking for in your child's IEP. These are the essential parts of an individual education plan. We are ABC for IEP LLC, and basically our mission here is to develop a network of special education specialists that have joined together to serve families that are frustrated with understanding the world of special education with all its rules, regulations, and also procedures. Our mission is to provide affordable access to special education classes, to guide, empower, and educate parents who feel frustrated and lost, to listen to concerns that are not being heard, and to help. And lastly, to give all children a voice so they can get the accommodations, modifications, supplementary aids, and service that they need and also deserve. As I mentioned before, my name is Dr. Elena Watson. I was an adjunct professor with Grand Canyon University. I have my doctorate in educational leadership from Walden University, a special education, master's in special education from University of San Diego, and I was a former director of special education, and just recently I presented up in Riverside for the CARS presentation, and CARS stands for California Resource Specialist Plus, and the topic was how to avoid somebody like me. Today we're going to be covering the 13 parts of an IEP. Again, this is just an overview. This is a beginner's course, and whoever wants to learn about the 13 parts, they're for parents, for teachers, for daycare people, whoever. Each course that is covered today will be covered through individual classes, and it will be covered more in depth. And here are the 13 parts of an IEP. It starts up here with the information page, present levels, goals and objectives, transition if your child is at or going to be 16 years of age, special factors, special education service options considered, supplementary aids and services, related services, and then we jump over to transportation, extended school year, or better known as ESY, the offer of FAPE, or the offer of free and appropriate public education, signature, and then finally consent. Let's go ahead and kick off with the information page. It needs to be your child's legal last name and first name, the IEP meeting dates, purpose of the meeting if it's an annual, triannual, if it is a manifestation determination. It's all located right up here, the purpose of the meeting. Any home information is really important, and also the indication of the disability. What is the primary? What is the secondary? Right down here. Now, there are 9 areas of present levels of academic achievements and functional performance. The first one up here, IEPs must have a statement of present levels of academic achievement and functional performance. The area 1 is actually broken out into 4 different pieces. So, what is your child's strengths, preferences, interests? Any state assessment results that they might have taken? What is their health and vision? And of course, your concerns of parent relevant to educational progress, what you're concerns about when it comes to their education. The second area is the developmental, academic, functional skills. This includes classroom performance in all academic areas. Area 3, communication development. 4, gross and fine motor. Area 5, social, emotional, and behavioral. Any health concerns. Area 6, vocational, number 7. Area 8, adaptive daily living skills, and of course, Area 9, areas of necessity explained in the terms of goals in order for the student to receive educational benefit. So with Area 9, these are your individual goals. So let's jump into Area 1, the strengths and preferences, and also your parent concerns. Here we have an IEP that right up here, if you notice the strengths, preference, and the interests of your child, should be outlined right here. Please do not accept the child is a very sweet child. I want to know what the student's strengths are. Are they more visual? Are they more kinesthetic? Are they more auditory? Here we have, and of course, the concerns of the parent relevant to the educational progress. This is right here, your time to say, hey, I'm really worried about Johnny's reading or his comprehension within reading. Here are all the state assessments. If they have any physical education testing, this is in grades 5, 7, and 9 in the state of California, and any other assessment data. And finally, way below here is your hearing and other health concerns, if they pass their vision and hearing screening. So let's jump into the present levels of academic and functional performance. Up here, you will see last year's goals normally, what the goals were, if they met, partially met, or not met. But as far as the present levels of performance, this is where the meat gets in. So if you can see here, we have a section for reading. How are they doing with reading, writing, math? Are there any communication development problems, both in and outside the classroom? Any gross and fine motor development skills? Are they age appropriate, or do they need some more help with their handwriting, for example, for fine motor development? Social emotional behavior, health, vocational, adaptive living skills. And down here are the areas of necessity explained in terms of goals and objectives in order that students receive educational benefits. Down here, this is where you would see math, reading, any other goals that they might have. With our next slide, we're going to be getting into how they break up a goal. So if you see here, the present levels of academic performance, we've taken a reading inventory, or just a reading goal. So right now, it says that Sarah achieved 4th grade oral and silent instruction reading levels for the story. And they write by the end of the 3rd marking period, March 2018 or March 2020 and 2021, on the Read 180, Sarah will achieve a 5th grade instructional level for silent reading, narrative materials, stories of 500 words or more. Now let's see how they broke this up into objectives. Here they have by the end of the first marking period, that doesn't sound right, Sarah will answer 7 out of 8 questions correctly when silently reading narrative materials. Okay. She will achieve this on 3 consecutive occasions with new and also unfamiliar texts. 4th grade narrative materials of 350 plus words from ABC Reader, whatever reading material that they may have. Now, if you noticed right here, they have a particular date. These are supposed to be broken up into quarters. So here's the second objective. So this is the first quarter, here's the second quarter. By the end of the second marking period, put in the date, Sarah will answer 7 of 8 questions correctly when silently reading narrative material. Okay. She will achieve this on 3 consecutive occasions with new and unfamiliar. Now here, if you notice the bold, they decided instead of 350 words, they were going to increase it at the same grade level, but now 500 words. So there's usually about 3 objectives to every goal. And what I wanted to do is just show you the 3rd objective that's going to lead to the goal. So if you remember our second objectives that we read we read the 4th grade narrative materials from 250, now it's 500 plus words. Now the 3rd quarter is the same thing, but she's going to now do 350 words at a 5th grade level. And this then should really tie into the 4th quarter. Sarah will achieve a 5th grade instructional level for silent reading narrative materials, e.g. stories of 500 or more words. Usually on all goals, it's as measured by what? How are you going to prove that the student actually made that goal? So within IEPs, what they have to do is they have to tell you what they're going to be bringing to show you that that student has made that goal, and it's right here. They could bring data, they could bring student work samples, they could be charting. I don't like to say just observation, because it could be just a second of time and there's nothing really to measure that with. The other part that I want you to pay very close attention to are, how does this goal help the student? Is it going to be helping the student in the general education and state standards? Is it going to address other educational needs? Is it linguistically appropriate if you are an ELL student, or even if you are 16 plus? If you have a child that's currently in school and she or he is about to turn 16 or is 16, the part of the IEP that's going to change a little bit, it's going to be an add-on. It's called a transition preparation for adult life and also independence. So here, as you can see, beginning no later than age 16, the IEP must include measurable goals for the student's anticipated post-secondary program and a description of the services needed for the child to reach these goals. Transition goals and services focus on instruction and supportive services needed to help the child move from school environment and into a job advocate for herself, to be able to advocate for herself in college or even a vocational program or other programs designed to promote independent living. So really, when we're talking about adult life and independence, that's exactly what we are going to be focusing on. How can the child that is currently 16, when he is 25, are we preparing him for adult life and independence? So let's talk about special factors. Special factors are those either devices or services for the student to be able to access their curriculum. Some of the special factors include, does the student require assistive technology, devices, or services? Are they low incident services such as hard of hearing, blind, deaf, special transportation, English language considerations, and of course, does the student's behavior impede the learning of self or others? And there should be a goal to address that. Here we have the statement describing testing adaptations and modifications. The IEP must explain what types of testing, adaptations, and modifications will be used with the student and why they are necessary. If the child will participate in alternative assessment, the rationale for that decision must be included in the IEP. So, in other words, what's an alternative assessment? Usually it's for students that are on the severe, moderate to severe spectrum, and that needs a different type of assessment to see what kind of gains he or she has made. We finally made it to the offer of FAPE, which means a free and appropriate public education. Here you will see special education service options considered. Now, I'm sure that you've heard the IEP team talk about a range or a spectrum of different services, and it really depends on what your child needs. If your child just needs general education classes, or even general education classes with supportive aids and services, all the way up to the most restrictive environment, non-public school, alternative education, home and hospital instruction, or even state hospitals. The next are supplementary aids and services to be provided to the student on behalf of the students, and also program modifications or supports for the school personnel. So for example, if an accommodation here would mean extra time on tests, well, it's to support the student. It has a start date and an end date. How many times is that accommodation or modification going to be giving, and how long, and also where. Here we have the actual special education and related services. Here you would have your specialized academic instruction, the start and the end date. If they're usually specialized academic instruction is usually in group, the frequency, their duration, and also the location. Same thing if they had speech and language or occupational therapy. Now down here, if you notice, we have an extended school year. If it's yes or if it's no, and why. Does a child qualify for ESY, extended school year, or if the child qualifies for transportation? So let's talk about the special education service options considered just for a moment. The green represents here that children who are typically developing. Red means the kids that have special needs. Now, if you look all the way down here, the general education and also inclusion, if you notice, they're all in the same pot. However, when we start getting in-class support and resources, we start looking at a small little group, but it's still in-class support. Then we have the resource specialist being pulled out. Self-contained, that means your special day class. An entirely different public special education school, day treatment, and of course residential. And as you can see, as we're going up, the environment becomes more and more restrictive. So what are supplementary aids and services? Well, these include anything that will provide access to the general education curriculum and also the environment. So it depends on the student's strengths and also the disability. If they need something that needs to be read out loud, or even if they need a sensory diet before they even take on a written project, do they need a picture symbol schedule, or do they need a laptop with other electronic devices? Do they need a one-to-one? Do they need books on tape? So now we're going to be talking about transportation. The IEP team must determine the district's obligation to provide transportation to students with disabilities on a case-by-case basis. The district must make the determination based upon the relationship between the child's disability and the need for a particular related service. Let's dive into ESY, or better known as extended school year. Now, one of the things that's very important to know is ESY is not summer school, but ESY is based only on the individual student's specific critical skills that are critical to his or her overall educational progress as determined by the IEP team committee. It's designed to maintain students' mastery. It's also designed to maintain reasonable readiness to begin the next year. We have finally come to the offer of FAPE. Now, it should explain how many minutes or percentage time in and out of general education environment. A list of students' non-academic activities in relation to their same aged peers, i.e. reading, math, lunch recess assemblies, passing period. Students will not participate, and a reason why they will not participate in the general education environment and non-academic activities. Why? And which subjects are you talking about? Are there any other agency support? How will you know how they are doing on their goals and objectives? Remember the progress and promotion? It also should state activities to support transition and also a graduation plan. Are they going for a general education diploma, or are they getting something different? Finally, here we come to the signature and consent form. Up here, if you read IEP meeting to participants, this is just for you to actually be there. You are participating in your child's IEP meeting. However, the consent is something different. So we're going to review that just lightly. We have, I agree to all parts, meaning you agree to the goals, you agree to the services, you agree to everything. I agree with some parts with the IEP, with the exception of, right here, I agree with the IEP with the exception of, let's say you didn't agree necessarily with the goal, but you agree with the services. That's fine. You just write here saying, with the exception of speech and language goal number 1. Or if you don't agree to the IEP, you can actually make it, I do not agree with this IEP. Which, if you do mark that, that will indicate that they have to have another meeting and they do not move forward with the IEP itself. Now, your child will still qualify for an IEP, but what's considered is a stay put. So last year's, whatever the last IEP you consented on, are the same goals and objectives and services that they're going to continue until this new IEP is resolved. In this section that you have eligibility, you have your safeguards, your parents' rights, and if your child is actually going to a private school or not. Down here, it's to confirm your agreeance with the above section and the date. So that's it. Here are the 13 parts that we just reviewed. The information page, the present levels of academic achievement and functional performance, or the PLOP, annual goals, transition, special factors, special education services, supplementary aids, special education and related services, transportation, ESY, offer of FAPE, and your signature and consent. Again, this is just a beginning class. I just want you to get familiar with your IEP. And if you have any questions regarding your IEP, please email me at watson@abcforiep.com. Thank you, and I'll see you at your next IEP meeting.